All right, so we are into our third candidate conversation. I'm Todd Haywood with Six News, and joining me is Eric Almquist and Dr. Deanira Navarez Martinez, both the candidates for the second ward. The second ward seat is open because Jeremy Garza chose to seek the at-large position. Um, and before we started, we did a paper where I had their names written on it, and Deanira got first go. And we will start with a 2-minute opening remark. Please go ahead.
Yeah. In order to introduce myself to folks in Ward 2, I'll say a little bit about my beginnings growing up and where I am now. So my name is Deyanira Nevares Martinez. I have been living in Lansing and been a proud resident of Lansing for the last 4 years. I am a professor at MSU, and so I've been teaching at MSU for the last 5 academic years. I have a PhD in urban environmental planning and policy, and I have decided to run for office for several reasons. First, I am the daughter of farm workers, and I really think that currently the working class um, uh, needs a little bit of help at every single level of government. Um, and I feel very lucky in that I was able to grow up working class and get a PhD and become a professor. And especially a professor in urban planning, which I think has provided me with a set of skills that would be really useful on a city council. I understand how government at the local level works and is supposed to work. And I'm passionate about housing. For the last 10 years of my career, I have focused on research in housing, specifically with unhoused folks. Unfortunately, currently in our nation and actually across the world, we have a housing affordability crisis that is really hitting lots of folks hard. And so, having that background, I think that I can really bring some skills to the council that would be hopefully useful to the community.
Okay, and that
I
was,
also, if you want to, oh,
go
sorry.
ahead. You've got another
Yeah,
five
I also
seconds.
wanted to, yeah, a little bit about my family. I live in Ward 2 in the Sycamore Park neighborhood with my husband Richard, who is a retired attorney, and my two children, Carlos, who is 14 and goes to Post Oak Elementary, and Juan, who's 9, or he just turned 10, also goes to Lansing schools.
Okay. And now, Eric, we'll give you 2 minutes and 15 seconds just to be equal here.
Thanks so much. I appreciate that. And hey, happy birthday to your son. That's a pretty big deal. So,
We
very
have the
cool.
same birthday. So
That's
I
happy
turned
birthday to you.
40 and
So
he turned 10.
that's it. So my name's Eric Almquist, and I apologize. I'm wearing this vest. I'm 12 days out of open heart surgery, triple bypass, but I have a great team who got me going, and it was very important to show up. And I think that's a key thing I always find important. I've been a former city council member, both under a strong city manager and a city manager system, and it was night and day between the two. I believe I've learned from experience that teamwork sure beats the siloing, and we have a lot of siloing going on here in Lansing. I'm not taking any donations. There's no strings attached. It's just getting service done for people. Um, I believe in growing the South area here. We need a community center. I work for Apple currently as they call it genius. I hate that term, but when the guys at the store can't figure it out, they get to call me. A little bit about my family. My father marched down in Selma. My son marched in Black Lives Matters when he was in college. So much that his mom and him don't talk anymore. I'm very proud of him about that. And my brother just got gassed speaking up in Broadview in Chicago, tear gassed during that last event. So this is a passion of mine, getting out there and doing this, and I understand that completely. And I understand my opponent how she feels the same way, and I appreciate that from her.
Okay. You still have another like 35 seconds if you like.
All right, sure, yeah. I mean, I really believe the key thing here to grow our communities, and this is what it's about, is we need to give people hope and then let people lead. And if we do that, that's going to build the communities, and we can replicate that across the area. That's how we're going to be that shining example on the hill that I really think Lansing as a capital can be.
Okay. So the first question, Eric, because you went second for opening remarks, you'll get the first question, and then Dayanara, you will get the same question. And that is, Lansing has focused its development muscle and desires pretty strongly in downtown Lansing for the 30 plus years that I have lived here. Whether it was getting rid of the Sin Strip where the baseball stadium is now, to putting in the housing that we just approved and started putting the cranes up in the air for. Unfortunately, that has been to the detriment oftentimes to the south side of Lansing, and particularly to southeast Lansing. So what will you do to encourage development, and what does development look like in southeast Lansing to you?
Thank you. A great question. First of all, I am passionate about getting a community center. We're the only area that doesn't have one. And what that does for a community to let it grow, whether it has a commercial kitchen or has modular pods so people can run their businesses out of them, meeting space, all those things that say community center. First and foremost, would love that. How do we invest in this area? Well, we invest where our infrastructure already is. We don't need to be going out and creating new stuff because that needs upkeep. And we need to take care of our stuff we have now. We build a building 30 years later, we tear it down and we do something else. We need to reinvest, take care of the stuff we already have, and move forward in that direction. I love to see local jobs and pop-up markets. I love to see job fairs. We have that so we can fill those jobs as they grow and we have growth out here. I like to see that the neighborhoods and the cities and businesses all work together as a team, and I'm really big on team to get this done. But we see great growth in these corridors. We can see more. I'd like to see it catch up everywhere. I love when I see a new business open up on Pennsylvania where I live. I always get very excited. I think I'm the only person that got excited that a Harbor Freight and a UPS store opened up. But I was really excited to see that new business come in. That's the kind of stuff, investment we need. And we need to make it an area so we can invest. But we can't be giving away everything. We need to be smart about how we do this.
Okay. You still got another minute 30 if you'd like it. I mean, if not, we can add on to it with more questions.
I figured I might run slow, so I wanted to give myself that pacing. So if I hit a minute and a half, I'm okay.
Okay. All right. So Dayanara, the same question to you. What will you do if you're elected to encourage development, and what does that development look like for Southeast Lansing?
So, development is a little bit of a double-edged sword. Yes, we have focused development in the downtown area, but we need that, and so we in order for development to also kind of start bleeding into the neighborhoods, we have to have a vibrant downtown that attracts folks to the city in general. Lansing, unfortunately, has lagged behind some of our neighboring cities in the state. So Grand Rapids has done a lot in their downtown. Detroit has done a lot in their downtown. We are the state capital, which is right in the middle of our downtown. We should have development there, and we should have development that is worthy of a capital city. With that said, when we do development in downtowns, it unfortunately always ends in some kind of gentrification and displacement. And so, what I think that needs to be really looked at as we are, cranes are going up downtown, as we're doing all of this, making sure that legacy folks, whether that be individuals who live and reside in downtown or close to the downtown area over by the Kalamazoo area specifically, or businesses that have been downtown for a long time that never gave up on the downtown area, that if they want to stay, that they're able to stay. So creating programs to make sure that that happens. Now, with development downtown, I do not believe that that precludes development in the neighborhoods or in the wards more broadly. And so I do think that it actually will help to bring in more development for the southeast side of Lansing. And so I think one of the things that I'm really interested in is bringing more small business into Southeast Lansing. Even when looking for, venues to have campaign events and some of these things, there are lots of chains in Ward 2, but not a lot of, homegrown Lansing small businesses. There are some really great places. There's Athena's where I've done some stuff. There's other great restaurants. But we need to kind of be able to focus more and bring some of these folks into Southeast Lansing, whether that is helping them through redeveloping some of these, strip malls that are empty on Pennsylvania, on Cedar, on some of these big corridors, and then getting some housing that folks can afford as well. And so I think that these two things aren't necessarily opposed to each other. We just need to do them better in parallel.
Okay. So this next question goes to you, Dayanara, and then we'll go to you, Eric. So we have heard a lot of concerns about public safety. The perception is that our community is not safe. Now, the data actually does not agree with that, and that's data that's culled from the police reports and the actual official arrest stuff. I've also heard a lot about sort of what we would consider sort of nuisance type crimes, the drag racing on the corridors, the sort of stealing somebody's bike, trash and littering, that sort of the nuisance things that build into larger problems. So what would you do if elected to city council to address not only real crime, like the actual crime that's happening, but also the perception that we're not safe in this community? And we'll start
Yes.
with you.
So, yeah. This is a interesting topic that continues to come up in all of the forums and all of the, interviews that Eric and I do. Um, the it's true that the statistics and the data shows that actually nationwide we have a decline in crime rates. I think it's really, by continuing to just make that point, I think that a lot of folks in government do a disservice because that doesn't really mean anything to someone who has a child who got shot or someone who just, a friend whose house just got broken into. And so I think that that causes a lot of frustration in the city when, folks are saying, hey, I'm feeling unsafe. And the city's response is, well, crime's actually down. That doesn't resonate. And what I think that needs to be done is twofold. So we need to staff our public safety departments to where they need to be. They're actually understaffed, and so recruiting law enforcement. So whether we do that through, and some of this is already my understanding in the pipeline, but creating better pipelines from our Lansing Community College folks to our city jobs, including law enforcement. From MSU, we have lots of really bright folks who come through town to go to MSU and then leave, or who are even from here, go to MSU and then leave as well. And from the Lansing School District as well. And so creating better ties there through these institutions. We have three world-class institutions in our town that can be helping us do this. And making sure that folks are trained in community policing so that a lot of times in our neighborhoods, specifically in low-income neighborhoods of color, the police has an antagonistic relationship with the community, and that shouldn't be the case. There should be, hopefully, if we're able to recruit local folks to go onto the force, there'd be people who already know the community, who know folks that they're seeing out in, out and about, and there'll be trust there. And so training folks in community policing, and then also training folks in doing some interruption programs, violence interruption, and some of these other being proactive rather than reactive, which policing usually is. Obviously, something bad happens, we call the police.
Okay, I'm
But
going to
being
call you
more
because that's
proactive.
3.5 minutes. So sorry. Eric, to you, the same questions. How do we address the actual crime and the perception of lack of safety in the community?
You know, we just talked about at the our Lansing 360 meeting where the mayor, the police chief show up. It's an amazing event of networking, of wraparound services. People are doing a whole bunch of things. So what we can't fix with the lack of staffing we have, and I will say they've done an amazing job with the lack of the staffing, been very creative how they do that. So I'm very excited to make sure they fill those positions because then we can get that bridge that gap to the community. We need to make sure we make sure that we look at other things besides those issues we're looking at. If gun violence is down, that's fantastic. But like my opponent said, if someone has gone through something, crime is not down to them. And so bringing some of these wraparound services and some of these non-for-profits who do these specific things. There's one person there who deals with what do you do when your house is shot and you can't go back in your house because it's been shot. Who would want to go back? And so dealing with those things that we don't think about and looking to putting things in leases where someone has the ability, if their house has been shot, so they can go ahead and leave. Cleaning up streets, putting street lighting in, taking care of vacant lots. We have a lot, and it looks inviting to the wrong type, so we can fix that. Clean those corridors up. One of the things talked about was drag racing, and I actually went to city council and I presented an idea. How do you take care of drag racing? Well, we need bike lanes in a lot of these roads. And you can use bike lanes as a way to go ahead and minimize the amount of lanes there. And so they can slow down. And that's an inexpensive cost. I actually showed them how to pay for it too, which is really kind of neat. But there are a lot of things we can do. We have groups like Advanced Peace who are bridging that gap and out there and at the football games right now, working to make sure that there's that bridging that gap between the police force and the people who are there. And they talk about they need funding, but they need mentors. So if anyone's interested, look them up. They can really use some people out there helping. They're a great organization.
Okay. You've still got another minute 15 or so if you like. If you don't, we can.
I'm good because we both touched on a lot of stuff. So
Okay. So this question goes to you and then it'll go to Dana. So I've lived here over 30 years. There has consistently been an invisible wall between Lansing and East Lansing. And we call it the 127 wall. What will you do to encourage the folks at MSU to actually get over that wall and come into Lansing, to come into our downtown, to come into the new small businesses that you want to encourage growth in South Lansing? So I'll let you go ahead and answer that, Eric.
well, we need to be inviting. We need to welcome them. A lot of times it's Lansing people going into East Lansing. We need to make it inviting. And we've opened up Michigan Avenue. So that's part of the deal. We need businesses that are open later for them to come and be welcome. I would love to see us invest in art downtown, art prize. All these empty storefronts had art in the window. And right now, all our storefronts have for leases in the window. So let's give people a reason to come down. It doesn't need to cost anything, but let's give them a reason to come down and enjoy and spend their dollars here because it's a wonderful place and I want them to see it. Let's give them something to come to because I do not want to fix our downtown issue on the backs of workers who are currently working at home. That's not how we fix this. If they want to come back in, that's great, but we don't want to do that. But let's fix this by bringing people from outside in, like East Lansing. I love that idea. And how we do that is we have these, for example, with a Lansing 360, we have groups from both areas working together to try to go ahead and bridge that gap and treat this as one area. So that's what it needs to be. But we need to have opportunity for people to come down here. So there is something to do.
Okay. You've still got another 45 seconds if you want it. If you don't, that's okay.
I am good. Thank you.
Okay. Dayanara, same question to you. How are you going to break the 127 barrier?
Yes, so I'm like I mentioned, a professor at MSU, and I talk about this with my students quite a bit. Most of my students are Michigan residents, but they're not usually from Lansing or East Lansing. They're from other parts of the state. And so um, it kind of boggles their mind sometimes when I tell them, there are folks in Lansing who have probably never set foot on the MSU campus. Because even though there is no wall around the campus, there is a wall around the campus, right? And if someone who may not look like they belong there, campus police might come show up and ask, even though it is a institution founded by our state dollars and we all have the right to be there. There are lots of issues there. One of the things that you know I, as a member of the MSU community, is doing is trying to bring more of MSU events also on in Lansing. So, for example, um, I am a faculty member in the School of Planning, Design, and Construction, and my research focuses on homelessness. And I have a colleague named Greg Colburn who wrote a very insightful book called Homelessness is a Housing Problem. And we had an event with him where we brought him as part of our lecture series and had the event at the Fledge in Lansing, where we invited community members. And so one of the things that MSU does is MSU is really great at having, a global presence. We take students to New York City on field trips for the College of Planning, Design, and Construction to show them the development that is happening there. But we don't often take them to field trips in Lansing, right? Which we could be doing more of. And as personally, I'm trying to do more of that. But I also think that the city needs to have more conversations with MSU as an institution to see what they can bring to Lansing, right? Can we, I don't know, have a Center of the Arts or something affiliated with MSU in downtown Lansing? Can we have some of those things that can there be some other cities have done this. So, for example, in Tucson, Arizona, the University of Arizona has a downtown campus. Can we have a campus in downtown Lansing where maybe folks who are studying public policy or who are studying some of these things that the capital is the hub of, that they can be maybe there. Some of these conversations I think should be happening. And in addition, I think we need to create better connections between the two cities when it comes to things like public transportation. A lot of the students at the MSU campus don't have reliable transportation that could take them to downtown Lansing, but they'd love to go hang out and watch a baseball game or watch whatever. And so creating better connections, working with CATA to do that, or other agencies that can help would be, I think, a great idea.
I'm gonna call you there.
Yeah.
Eric, I'm gonna toss sort of an extra in here because you've surrendered a lot of time, and I want to give you a little extra here.
Sure.
What do you think of this idea of expanding CATA or public transportation to sort of break the 127 barrier?
Well,
How would we do that?
I don't know if that is a barrier right now because if you've ever gone to a Thirsty Thursday Lugnuts game, it's all college students there at that game. So providing more events where they want to show up, and that's some of the biggest crowds they have. It's one of my favorite times to go because it reminds me of Wrigley Field, that area, when that happens. All the restaurants do well, everything in Michigan Avenue does well. If we could just get them a little bit further, realizing they can do that. We have a bus system where I can go from where I'm at here to Lake Lansing for about $2. So on campus, it doesn't cost me anything. So I think they are one of the most amazing assets we have here. And listen to them talk about what they're doing with their budget and how they're making it work, whether it's running smaller buses to areas to bridge that gap. But they impress me. I know other people get frustrated with them, but I love what they're doing. So I don't think it's an issue with them. I think it's an issue. We need to provide them something to do. Make this a destination, a place to go.
Okay. So that brings us actually to the end, so that we still have 2 minutes for closing remarks. So Dayanara, you will no, wait, Eric, didn't you start? I can't even remember who started it because I've
I
just
went first. I did the
okay.
opening statement. So
Then you will do
yeah,
closing
Eric.
statement first, and then Eric, you will close, and then I'll say thank you, and we'll be done. So Dayanara, 2 minutes.
Yeah, I would be really honored for to have the opportunity to serve Ward 2 as a representative on the city council for them. I really got in this race because I feel that I have a set of skills that will be useful for the community. I have been involved in local governance in one shape or another for about 20 years. And so I also my faith is very important to me, and being Catholic, I really feel that that has really given me a sense of service, and I would appreciate if voters in Ward 2 um, would give me the opportunity to serve them and hopefully uh, work on some of these issues we've talked about today: development, bringing small business to the ward, helping those small businesses that are already there, on safety issues, and most importantly for me, the issue of housing. Across the board, our community needs help with housing. I don't know a single person even who is in the middle class who's like, oh yeah, I'm totally secure in my housing. I think everybody is struggling now and trying to figure out, working with other members of the council to make these things better for folks in our community is one of the things that I would look forward to if given the opportunity and the honor by the voters in Ward 2 to represent them.
Okay. And Eric, your closing remarks.
Thank you. Thank you very much for doing this. First thing I want to say is I've had experience. I've done this before. Everything from budgeting to hiring and firing and increasing the police force and the fire department and ordering Lucas machines and all these fun things that, comes with it. Kind of gets exciting, even though doing civic work can be boring, but that stuff kind of really excites me. I've learned that teamwork versus siloing is the way to get that done, and I'm very good at breaking those barriers down. I may not have all the solutions, but I can find you someone who does, and I can get the two of you together so you can get the problem solved. We need to get out of the way and let people lead. I will work with anyone who's serious about results. That's key, and we will make things happen. I believe that we should grow fairly, stay safe. We need housing for everyone, but we need not affordable housing, we need attainable housing, because my idea of what affordable is different than what my landlord's idea of affordable is. So there's a difference there. We need to fund wisely. I also believe that we need to take care of what we already have before we start to go ahead and invest in new things or tear things down. I wanted to say a couple nice things about my opponent. First of all, hey, thank you for keeping your kids in the Lansing School District and keeping your tax dollars here. That's such an important thing. And on a sad note, I really appreciate what you've done for the school board. I know you're just elected, and I'd love to see you keep the progress you're making there, because that gets me very excited. So I appreciate you on that.
Okay. Well, thank you both for taking a little bit of time out on your Friday night when you could be out at football games or knocking on doors or doing other things for your campaigns. We really appreciate it. This will get processed and probably get up first thing tomorrow or late tomorrow afternoon. Don't make me make promises that I can't fulfill. So thank you both. I appreciate it. And I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording.
Thank you. Hey,